What's good, guys? It's Reese from PLT Talks. Just before we get into this video, if you don't mind liking and subscribing, it makes a big difference for me and doesn't take out too much for you. Now, I have two main topics which I want to talk about today. That one is going to be how to engage and why it's important to engage your lats when you bench press. And another one is proper a proper trap setup, because even though this is a movement primarily with your shoulders, triceps, and chest, there's a lot of back action involved. And honestly, if you really think about it, the bench press can be a very full body lift. Now, one thing I kind of exaggerate a little bit here is notice my elbows here. I'm going to tuck in really hard. Now, will you probably get this much tuck when you do a real set? Probably not. And there is a certain point where there's too much lat activation, but honestly, if you're a beginner, I wouldn't worry about too much lat activation. A good old clap bench press. See, I'm gonna exaggerate a lot here. I'm doing my normal setup, my normal thing to get me locked in. Now, when I set up here, a lot of people do this wrong. You're meant to dig your shoulder blades like back and down, and some people, they will kind of hunch their shoulders over, and this really messes up their bench press. See me like wiggling my elbows there? Some people like to use the cue bend the bar when you bench press. For me, that just kind of feels weird on my wrists. I like to think of it as pull your elbows into your stomach. And again, normally if you're a beginner, you don't really need to worry about activating them too much, because there is a certain degree where your elbows are so tucked that you're actually a little bit weaker. Another thing that's kind of hard to see here is I'm going to be super tucked. Basically, as soon as I start my rep, and the more I go down into my rep, is the more I'm going to tuck my elbows. And this does two things. One, when you're activating your lats really hard, it creates a lot more tension and a lot more stability. Makes it for your prime movers, aka your chest, shoulders, and triceps, they can work more efficiently. And another thing is called elasticity tension. So basically, think about it this way. Think about if you had a rubber band stretched between 2 points and you put some kind of object on that. It's going to have a little bit of tension, a little bit of elasticity that's going to help it move it upwards. So that if you were to pick it up, it'd be easier because it has that elasticity. It's the same thing when we bench press here. When we're tucking, our elbows are creating all this extra tension. And if you know anything about lifting or physics, that tension has to go somewhere. So it goes up into the bar. So again, after I do my press, I'm actually slightly letting go of the tension on the bar with my lats. So my elbows are going to come out a bit more. So think about it, I'm starting my rep right here. Right here. Again, wiggling my elbows. So lift up. So I'm going to stay super tucked, more tucked in as I'm going down on the rep. And when I press here, I'm going to slightly flare out a little bit. That's releasing the elasticity tension that we want. We want to use that power. Now, that's why lats are super important. And again, I think it's really important to warm up. For me, I will just take like a little D handle, just do some slow rows to really get them fired. Okay, so today, by the way, this is our light day. Light day as weights, not intensity, even though I probably will eventually cut down on my intensity when it comes to benching here. But for me, it just doesn't make me that tired. Now, a good setup. How do you get your traps back and down? For me, or how I like to teach people, is shrug your shoulders up, pull them back, and then pull them down. That's your position. Another thing here you might notice, when I'm going to go set up, my shoulders are already back here. I'm going to do, again, using my lats there, just kind of feeling. I do this thing, that kind of really gets them down. And again, I'm setting my feet just outside the bench so I can push against my calves here. Now here, look, I raise my hips there and I just slightly bend my elbows. That's enough to get the bar off. What a lot of people do is they sit up correctly, but then they'll push off with their shoulders and they lose all that back tension. They lose all that shelf down there. This is really bad. So you want to keep that through the whole time you lift. It is a learning curve. Definitely something you want to start with lighter weights with. Figure it out. Also, just a little quick side note. This is my first time doing 225 10 reps pause. That means after this we'll be doing 235 when we do our light days here. Now I will mention also I did kind of mess up some of these reps when it comes to a pause. It doesn't really look like much of a pause. And another thing you might notice a little bit later in this video when I'm doing incline is that I'm not actually pushing off with my feet on every rep. And that was a mistake. Why pause benching is so awesome, especially when it comes to leg drive, is without pausing, it's really easy to mess up your leg drive timing. Ideally, you want to be tensioning the whole time just a little bit, and then right before you press, you're pushing back. Now, a lot of people, they push and their butt comes up, and a lot of cheat videos you'll see on bench, their butt comes up so much. But actually, if you leg press correctly, where you're just pushing back, another way to think about it is pushing so your feet would go flying. Obviously, there's friction against the ground, so your feet aren't going anywhere. That's why I also like doing my little feet setup here, where my calves are in front of the bench. Helps me from keeping off. So what that's doing is basically you're pushing against the ground, and that is all that energy transferring back into your traps, which is also then transferring into the bar. Remember, guys, everything is about tension, everything is about stability, everything is about how can I transfer this energy into the bar. That's basically your principles of lifting here. Now, I don't want to go over leg drive too much, I want to go more in depth later in the video. But again, with my setup here, very, very important. You don't have to do this weird thing where I kind of slide myself all the way back in the bench. For me, it makes my shoulders get into position way easier. See, like I'm super down. How to know if someone messes up if their shoulders kind of hunched almost past their like neck and stuff. See, if you watch my shoulders here, it's gonna be a little hard to see because my angle I did in this video, but they never like were jacked up, and that's so important because your back setup is so important. It's also why having a big back can increase your bench because you have more of like a space to balance the bench on and balance the weight on and everything. See, like my shoulders never kind of pop out. Again, it's kind of hard to see. I'm gonna change angles for next video for sure. Like later on, I have a better angle here where you can kind of see my elbows slightly flare out as the rep goes. See, this rep was really hard, but we got it. And I've been moving. I used to do like 5 sets of bench, 3 heavy, then 2 easier. But now I just kind of do 3 and 3, and that honestly works fine for me. Now you also might be wondering, hey, if I just did regular bench, why am I warming up with the bar and incline? This is more for my brain, more getting the movement pattern. Here, you can see my elbows nice and tucked, and they flare a little bit, just a little bit afterwards, because you still want that good tension. And also another thing is you might notice my bar path. A lot of people will bench straight up and down. It's not necessarily horrible or anything, but you want to press so it's coming down. Well, with incline here, it's coming down like maybe 1.5 to 2 inches above my nipple. And then with regular bench, it's about the opposite, maybe not that much past your nipple. But then you're pressing up so that when you're in your top position, your shoulders are like and arms and stuff is perfectly aligned with the bar. Super important. Makes your bench way stronger. Okay, now we go into our bigger sets here on incline. Now with incline, this is like what do I do here? I kind of pop up a little bit and then dig my shoulder blades up, like right there. This is much harder to get a good shelf on, and also you can't do the trick where you lift your hips up, otherwise you mess up your whole feet position. So with this, I kind of like to pop up and then quickly dig my shoulder blades down, and then with this, you kind of do gotta push a little bit with your shoulders, but again, it's mostly your elbows just bending. Let's see here, the bar goes down and then up, and like a J curve is how you want to think about it. Now, this is going to be really awkward for new lifters or people that are really used to just benching straight up and down. So again, guys, practice with lighter weight. It's super important. This was a struggle. Now, mind you, I got 7 reps here. This next set, I also get 7 reps. But notice my first like 3 or 4 reps there, I wasn't really using any leg drive. I was keeping my legs nice and tense, but I wasn't really pressing with them as I'm pressing with my chest. Because again, it's an energy transfer. Energy is so important as how to manage it and how to transfer it into the bar. Again, that's all what powerlifting's about here. The second set, I don't want to spoil it too much, but something a little spooky happens at the end. A little bit of a lifter's worst nightmare here. You might also notice, hey, I didn't pull out the sleeves for 225, and I have a rep PR. I'm trying not to get used to the sleeves too much. Wrist wraps are okay. They just protect my wrists more so they don't get very sore. Now again, up and down like that. It's pretty tricky, especially on an incline bench. See, my shoulders did go up a little bit there, but then as I'm kind of repping, I kind of fix that. See here, look when I press, everything, the legs go with the chest there. Really important. That's another reason, I know I mentioned this already, but I pause benching is honestly better. If you get really good at leg drive and pause benching, I honestly believe it can beat a touch and go bench. Alright, watch this, guys. Big fight, big fight. No, this is every lifter's worst nightmare. Luckily I had clips on. I had it over the bar and it slipped and I was like, oh well. It happens, guys. Oh well. Now this angle's much better. Look at my elbows here. Look how I'm very tucked and then I kind of flare out. It's very subtle. I flare out just a little bit afterwards. And I also feel like you can't engage the lats as hard on incline bench. That just is what it is. Okay, so that's the session. Pretty quick one today, guys. I'll definitely go more in depth on little things later on. But I mean, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode of Powerlifting Talks. Peace, y'all.